My mother took away my room that I paid for to give it to her best friend. When I left, she trashed me on Facebook saying I abandoned her. But now she's in financial trouble, and the $400 she lost has her desperate. I'm 23 years old. I work as a freelancer from home. Well, I used to work from home until like 3 weeks ago. And I need to tell this story because, basically, my mom chose her best friend over me, even though I was paying rent and utilities in that house. I guess I should start from the beginning. So this all makes sense, because when I tell people about it, they can't believe these things actually happen, but I swear it happened exactly like I'm going to tell you. I live, or lived, with my mom and my two siblings, a brother and sister who are both 15. They're twins. My dad hasn't been in the picture since I was like 12. He left and basically never came back. Sends money occasionally, but nothing consistent. You know how that goes. So my mom owns the house. She paid it off with my grandma's inheritance years ago, and I started paying rent when I was 20 because I got work as a freelancer in graphic design and video editing. And honestly, I was doing pretty well. Like nothing extraordinary, but I was making enough to contribute. I was paying like $400 a month rent plus half the utilities, internet, electricity, water, all that. It wasn't cheap, but it wasn't expensive compared to renting a place on my own. And well, it was my family, right? I thought I was helping. My room was my workspace too. I had all my equipment there. My computer that cost me like $2,000 to build, 2 monitors, my camera, lights, microphone, the whole setup for recording and editing. I spent literally 10 to 12 hours a day there working, taking projects, editing videos for clients, doing designs. It was my office and my bedroom at the same time, but it worked perfectly because I had everything organized, my bed in one corner and all my studio stuff in the other part. The house has 3 bedrooms, my mom's, mine, and the guest room where my siblings slept in bunk beds because technically that room was for both of them, but they called it the guest room because there were almost never any guests, maybe once or twice a year when some uncle came to visit or something. Kelly is my mom's best friend from like 15 years ago. They met at work or something. I don't remember exactly. Kelly was married, has 2 kids, a girl who's 8 and a boy who's 6 years old, I think. Or maybe 7 and 5. Honestly, I'm not sure of the exact ages, but they're young. You know what I mean? She was always nice to me. Like we got along fine when she came to visit, but it's not like we had a close relationship. She was my mom's friend. Period. Like 4 months ago, Kelly started having problems with her husband. My mom would tell me they were getting divorced and things were ugly, that the guy was a jerk. The usual. I said, sure, that sucks. Hope it works out. But honestly, I didn't think much about it because it wasn't my problem. Sounds selfish, but that's how it was. One day, I get home. It was a Tuesday, I think. No, wait. Wednesday, because I had gone to the supermarket in the morning, and I always go on Wednesdays. Anyway, I get there, and there's a car in the driveway I don't recognize. A Toyota Corolla, like from 2015 or something. Kind of old, but in good shape. I go into the house, and Kelly's in the living room with my 2 siblings and my mom, and they have like 3 big suitcases and several boxes on the floor. My mom sees me and says, "Oh, Marcus, perfect, you're here. Come sit down, I need to tell you something." And I'm like, "Okay, what's up?" And she tells me that Kelly is going to stay with us for a while because she finally separated from her husband and needs a place while she finds something more permanent. I said, "Oh, okay, that's fine. I understand. I mean, the guest room is free, right?" And my mom says, yes. She's going to be in the guest room with the kids, just for a few weeks until she gets an apartment. The first 2 weeks, everything was relatively normal. Kelly and her kids slept in the guest room. My siblings complained a bit because technically it was their room, but they adapted. Kelly's kids were loud, like all kids are. They ran around the house, screamed, played, but whatever, nothing out of the ordinary. I worked in my room with headphones on most of the time, so it didn't affect me that much. Kelly was looking for apartments online, went to see some places. My mom would take her because Kelly didn't have a car at that moment. Her ex kept the main car, and she had that Corolla borrowed from her sister or something. But then, like at 3 weeks, I started noticing that Kelly wasn't searching for places as actively, like my mom wasn't going out with her to see apartments anymore, and the kids were getting more and more comfortable. They had brought more toys, more clothes. Basically, it didn't seem temporary anymore. I didn't say anything because, well, it wasn't technically my house, even though I paid rent, and besides, I didn't want to be the bad guy. My mom and Kelly spent all their time together, drinking wine at night, watching movies, talking about how horrible Kelly's ex was, the usual. Then came the day that changed everything. I left early in the morning, like at 8, to go to a coffee shop because I had a video call with a new client, and I wanted to do it from there because there was too much noise in the house with the kids. The meeting lasted like 2 hours. Then I went to the bank, did some shopping, got home around noon, 12:30 maybe. I go up the stairs, head to my room, open the door, and I almost had a heart attack. My room was completely transformed. Kelly's kids had moved everything. My desk with my whole setup was pushed against a wall, my monitors disconnected and stacked haphazardly, my camera and lights packed away in boxes on the floor, my bed taken apart and leaning against another wall, and in the middle of the room they had put a queen-size bed. I don't know where they got that bed from. And the kids were there playing with their toys scattered all over the floor, my cables, my stuff, everything mixed up, with their toys. I stood there in the doorway, unable to process what I was seeing. Literally couldn't even speak, just stared at everything, trying to understand what the hell had happened. I go down the stairs almost running and find my mom and Kelly in the kitchen drinking coffee and laughing about something. I say to them, "What happened to my room? Why did you move all my stuff? Who gave you permission to touch my equipment?" My mom looks at me kind of confused and says, "Oh, Marcus, don't get upset. The kids needed more space. They can't all be cramped in the guest room. Your room is bigger." I'm like, "What do you mean don't get upset? That's my room. I pay rent. I work there. You can't just go in and move everything without even asking me." And Kelly says, "Sorry, Marcus, but it'll just be temporary. Really, just while I find a place." And I say, "Okay, but you can't use my room. Period. We need to put everything back right now." My mom totally changes there. Her face gets serious and she says, "Marcus, this is my house. I decide who sleeps where. You live here, but the house is mine." I tell her, "Yes, but I pay rent. I pay utilities. It's not like I'm living for free. I have a right to my space." She says, "Well, if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. The kids need that room because it's the biggest, and they have to study and do homework, and they need space for their things." I was so angry I literally felt like I was going to explode. My hands were shaking and I wanted to scream, but I tried to stay calm. I told her, "Give me a week to look for another place then. But in the meantime, the kids have to get out of my room because I need to work. I have projects with deadlines this week." My mom says, "No, Marcus, the kids are staying there. You can work in the living room or the dining room for now." With my siblings watching TV and the kids running around? Seriously? I tried to reason with her. I explained that I had expensive equipment, that I needed privacy for video calls with clients, that my work required concentration and a dedicated space. Nothing. Kelly didn't even say anything, just stood there drinking her coffee, looking away. I asked Kelly directly, "I mean, do you really think it's okay for your kids to take my room without warning?" She says, "Oh, Marcus, I'm really sorry, but we're in a very difficult situation. My ex left me with nothing. The kids have been through so much trauma. We just need a little time." And I'm like, "Okay, I understand that, but it's not my problem to solve your situation at the expense of my work and my privacy." I went back up to my room. Well, the room that used to be mine. The kids were still there playing like nothing. I told them, "Hey guys, I need you to leave for a moment. I have to set up my stuff to work." The girl looks at me and says, "My mom said this is our room now." I was frozen. This 8-year-old girl was literally telling me that my room where I paid rent was theirs now. I tried to be patient. I told her, "Look, this room is mine. You guys have to go to the other room," but she just ignored me and kept playing. I went back downstairs, told Kelly to come talk to her kids. She went up and told them to leave for a bit. They left, but after like 20 minutes of asking why and throwing tantrums. I started reconnecting my equipment, setting up my desk somewhere it would fit, but the room now had that huge bed in the middle, and basically there was no space for anything. I ended up putting my desk in a super cramped corner, where my chair barely fit. I could connect my monitors, but one was at a weird angle because there wasn't room. I tried to work like that the rest of the day, but it was impossible to concentrate. I was super angry, frustrated, and besides, the kids came back to the room around 6 p.m. and started making noise again. I told them to please turn down the volume because I was on an important video call and they didn't even listen. That night, I tried to sleep on the living room couch because my bed was taken apart and there was nowhere to put it in the room with that queen bed there. I slept terribly. My whole body hurt. My siblings woke me up early because they had to go to school and were making noise getting ready. The next day, I confronted my mom again, told her the situation was unsustainable, that I couldn't work like this, that I needed my space back. She basically told me to stop complaining, to be more understanding, that Kelly was like her sister and needed our support. I reminded her again that I paid rent, that it wasn't fair. She said that if it bothered me so much, I could stop paying rent, and then I wouldn't have anything to complain about. See the logic? If I pay rent, they tell me the house is hers, and if I don't pay, then obviously I have no right to anything. It was a no-win trap. The next few days were horrible. I tried to work from the dining room, but there were constant distractions. My siblings, Kelly, the kids, my mom, everyone doing things, making noise. I lost 2 clients that week because I couldn't deliver on time. Video calls were a disaster because there was always someone yelling in the background or walking behind me. My income was at serious risk. I told my mom, "Okay, look, last chance. Either Kelly and the kids move out of the room that's mine, or I'm moving out of the house." I thought that would make her reconsider, but no. She told me, "Well, leave if you want. Nobody's forcing you to stay. But I'm not going to kick out Kelly and her kids just because you're selfish and can't share." Selfish? Me paying $400 a month plus utilities, contributing more than anyone in that house besides my mom, and I was the selfish one. In that moment, I decided, that's it. Enough. I was leaving. I started looking for rooms for rent that same night. Found some on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, went to see like 5 places in 2 days. One was really far from everything, another was super dirty, another, the owner gave me bad vibes. But finally, I found one that was okay. A room in a house where 2 other people lived, all around my age, workers too. And the room was smaller than the one I had, but at least it was mine. Nobody was going to come in without permission. The price was $500 a month, more than what I paid at my mom's house, but it included utilities, internet, and everything. So really it came out almost the same. I signed the contract, gave the deposit, move-in date was in a week. I told my mom, "Okay, I found a place. I'm leaving on Saturday." I thought maybe then she'd regret it, that she'd ask me to stay, but nothing. She said, "Okay, whatever you want. I hope it goes well for you." That cold. Kelly didn't even say anything. I literally think she was happy I was leaving so she could keep the room. My siblings were sad. They asked me why I was leaving, that I was going to leave them alone. I tried to explain, but they're kids. They don't understand the whole situation. I called 2 of my friends to help me move. They showed up Saturday morning with a borrowed truck. One of them, Dave, told me, "Bro, you should record all this, just in case," and he was right. We started taking my stuff out, all my clothes, my work equipment, everything that was mine. Kelly and the kids were in the room watching me pack, like not saying anything but standing there like making sure I didn't take anything that wasn't mine. My mom was in the kitchen. She didn't help with anything either. In fact, she didn't even talk to me all morning. My friends couldn't believe the situation. Dave kept saying to me, "Your mom is crazy. Kelly's taking advantage. This is super unfair." And I knew it, but it still hurt to hear it from someone else, you know? We finished loading everything in like 2 hours. My friend recorded when we left with the last load, me taking one last look at the house where I'd lived basically my whole life. We left, got to the new place, unloaded everything. My new roommates helped me carry the heavy stuff upstairs. I started setting up my room, connecting my equipment again, and honestly, it was liberating to have my space again, without anyone bothering me, without drama. But it didn't end there. Like 3 days later, my mom sends me a text saying I owed her the $400 for the rest of the month. I'm like, "What? You just forced me to leave. I'm not going to pay for a place where I don't live anymore." She says, "You decided to leave. I didn't force you." And besides, you had already paid for the whole month, so you owe me the remaining part. I sent her a long message, explaining that she was the one who put me in that situation. That I didn't want to leave, but she left me no choice. That I wasn't going to pay her anything. She left me on red. 2 days later, my aunt, my mom's sister, calls me saying she saw a post from my mom on Facebook talking about me. I looked it up and there it was, a super long post saying that her son had abandoned her in a difficult time, that she had always supported me, and that I was selfish and didn't want to help a friend in need, that I had left leaving her with all the responsibilities, that I wasn't paying her rent anymore, and now she was in financial trouble because of me. It had like 50 comments from her friends saying things like, "How awful, kids these days are so ungrateful, poor you friend, you deserve better." My blood was literally boiling. I wrote a long comment explaining my side of the story, that I paid rent, that they had taken my room without permission, that my work had suffered, that I tried to reason, and there was no way. My mom deleted my comment and blocked me. Several of my uncles and cousins contacted me asking what had happened. I explained everything to them. Some believed me. Others said there must be another version of the story and that I was exaggerating. It's incredible how people assume that because she's your mom, she has to be right, isn't it? It's been like 3 weeks since I moved out. I reconnected with my clients, explained the situation to them, and most were understanding. I got back one of the clients I had lost. My work is going better now that I have a stable space to concentrate. My siblings send me messages sometimes, tell me that Kelly is still there with her kids, that apparently she's not looking for an apartment anymore, that basically she moved in permanently. My mom hasn't contacted me at all. I guess that's fine. I don't know if I did the right thing. I mean, I know I had to leave because the situation was impossible, but I still feel guilty sometimes, like I abandoned my siblings, you know? But I also couldn't stay sacrificing my work and my mental health just because my mom decided that her friend's need was more important than the well-being of her own son, who was contributing to the house. People tell me it was the right decision, that I set boundaries, that I stood up for myself, and I guess they're right. But it's not easy. To cut off from your family like that, even though they turned their back on you first. The ironic thing is that now, my mom is probably struggling for real because she lost the $400 I was paying plus half the utilities, and I seriously doubt Kelly is contributing anything. But well, she made her decision. She chose to support her friend over her own son, and now she has to live with the consequences. I'm focusing on rebuilding my life, on my work, on having a space where I can be calm and productive. My roommates are cool, the house is quiet, I can work without interruptions, and honestly, even though I'm paying $100 more a month, it's worth every penny. Last week, one of my siblings asked me when I was coming back home. I told him I wasn't coming back, that this was better for me. He got sad, but I think he understands. I told him he could visit me whenever he wanted, that I'd always be there for him and my sister, but that I couldn't go back to that house with that dynamic. And that's enough for now, I guess.